Theresa Caputo's explosive comments caused turmoil in the family. Larry Caputo's new decision. Long Island medium star Theresa Caputo recently made explosive public comments about her ex-husband Larry Caputo. She called Larry a thug and highlighted various negative aspects of his character. After hearing Theresa's statement, family members started expressing their hatred towards Larry. In such a situation, Larry Caputo made an extreme decision. He would move away with his second wife, Connie Studi, and cut off ties with everyone. This incident has sparked further tension within the Caputo family, which shows no signs of stopping. Theresa Caputo stood before a room full of cameras, her voice sharp and unwavering. "Larry Caputo is nothing but a thug," she declared. "He has destroyed our family, and I refuse to stay silent any longer." The press conference went viral within minutes. News outlets dissected her words, fans debated online, and most importantly, the Caputo family was thrown into chaos. Larry Caputo watched the broadcast from his home in California, his face unreadable. Connie Studi, his second wife, sat beside him, gripping his hand. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. Larry exhaled heavily. "I should have seen this coming," he muttered. "She never lets things go." As expected, the fallout was immediate. Their children, Victoria and Larry Jr., hesitated to call. Extended family members distanced themselves. Even old friends sent awkward texts or ignored him altogether. It was as if Theresa's words had flipped a switch, turning everyone against him. The final straw came when Larry Jr. refused to meet him for dinner. "Dad, I need some space right now," he said over the phone. The coldness in his voice stung. Larry turned to Connie, eyes dark with frustration. "I'm done, Connie. I'm done trying to prove myself to people who have already made up their minds." "What do you mean?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "We're leaving," he said firmly. "You, me, and the kids. I don't care where we go, Italy, Canada, anywhere but here. I'm cutting ties with everyone." Connie nodded, knowing arguing would be pointless. She had always known that Larry carried his pride like armor, and Theresa had just driven the final nail into the coffin. 2 weeks later, they were gone. No goodbyes, no explanations, just an empty house and a silence that spoke volumes. Back in New York, Theresa heard the news but showed no reaction. "Good," she said simply, but deep inside, she wondered if she had truly won, or if she had just burned the last bridge that could ever be rebuilt. However, James and his 17-year-old daughter, Emily, walked hesitantly into Theresa Caputo's cozy reading room. It had been a year since Emily's mother, Sarah, had passed away unexpectedly. The loss had left an unbearable silence in their home, and though James tried to stay strong for his daughter, he knew they both needed closure. Theresa greeted them warmly, her signature blonde hair and sparkling personality instantly making them feel at ease. Okay, she said, closing her eyes for a moment. "I already feel a strong motherly presence here." Emily gasped softly and gripped her father's hand. "She's telling me she passed suddenly," Theresa continued, "and she wants you to know she didn't suffer. She keeps showing me a heart. Was it a heart attack?" James nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "Yes, it was completely unexpected." Theresa smiled gently. "She's telling me she's okay. She's watching over both of you, but especially you, sweetheart," she said, looking at Emily. "She says you've been struggling, feeling guilty about something." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. I didn't say goodbye that morning. We had an argument, and I left for school angry." Theresa nodded. "She says you need to let that go. She knew you loved her, and she never held on to that argument. She says she's so proud of you." James wiped his eyes and whispered, "That sounds just like her." Theresa smiled. "She keeps mentioning butterflies. Do you see them often?" Emily's breath caught. "Yes, almost every day. One always lands on my window." "That's her," Theresa said warmly. "That's her way of saying she's still with you." Emily and James exchanged a look, the weight of their grief lifting just a little. They left Theresa's house feeling lighter, as if Sarah had truly spoken to them. And as they stepped outside, a butterfly fluttered past, landing gently on Emily's shoulder. She smiled. "Hi, Mom." However, Theresa Caputo sat across from the young woman in her reading room, her signature blonde hair cascading over her shoulders. The air was thick with the scent of sage, the dim glow of candles casting flickering shadows on the walls. The woman, Emily, twisted her hands in her lap, her eyes filled with unshed tears. "I don't know if this will work," Emily murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Theresa tilted her head slightly, a small smile playing on her lips. "Sweetheart, I can already feel it. You've been carrying this burden for so long, haven't you?" Emily gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "How did you?" Theresa closed her eyes for a moment, her breath steadying as she connected with the energy around her. "There's a man here. He's tall, broad shoulders, dark hair. He's telling me he should have said something before it was too late." Tears slipped down Emily's cheeks. "My dad, he died suddenly. We had a fight the last time we spoke, and I never got to say I was sorry." Theresa opened her eyes, warmth radiating from her. "He's showing me a letter, but it's unfinished. Did he ever write to you?" Emily let out a soft sob. "Yes, I found it after he passed. He never got to finish it. I always wondered what he was going to say." Theresa nodded, her gaze gentle. "He wants you to know it wasn't your fault. He loves you, and he hears you every time you talk to him. You don't have to carry this anymore." Emily took a shaky breath, as if a weight had been lifted from her chest. For the first time in years, she felt something she never thought possible: peace. Theresa reached across the table, squeezing Emily's hand. "You're not alone, sweetheart. He's still with you. Always." However, Theresa Caputo sat across from a pale, tired-looking woman in an orange jumpsuit. The cold walls of the women's correctional facility echoed the silence between them. Theresa could feel the weight of the woman's past, the regrets, the pain, the longing for redemption. "Your grandmother is here," Theresa said softly, her voice trembling as she wiped away a tear. "She says she's been watching over you since the day you were arrested. She knows you feel lost, but she wants you to know you're not beyond saving." The inmate, a woman named Maria, gasped. Her hands, cuffed loosely in front of her, trembled. "My grandma," she whispered, her voice cracking. Theresa nodded. "She's showing me a yellow rose. Does that mean anything to you?" Maria let out a sob. "She used to give me a yellow rose every year on my birthday. I thought she forgot about me, after everything I've done." Theresa shook her head, her own tears falling freely now. "No, honey, she never forgot you. And she says it's time to forgive yourself. You've made mistakes, but you can turn your life around." Maria's sobs grew louder. The other inmates in the room, usually indifferent to these readings, watched in stunned silence. The toughest of them had tears in their eyes. "I don't know how," Maria admitted. Theresa reached out, squeezing Maria's hands. "Your grandmother says you start by believing you're worthy of a second chance. She's showing me books, education, helping others. Does that make sense?" Maria wiped her face, nodding slowly. "I always wanted to be a teacher before my life went off the rails. I never thought I could do anything good again." Theresa smiled through her tears. "Your grandma disagrees. She believes in you. And you know what? So do I." A month later, Theresa received a letter. Maria had enrolled in a prison education program, determined to earn her JED. In her letter, she wrote, "Theresa, I don't know if you realize what you did for me that day. You gave me hope. My grandmother may not be here physically, but I feel her presence now, and I finally believe I have a future. Thank you for reminding me I'm more than my past." Theresa held the letter to her heart, tears welling up once more. It was moments like these that reminded her why she did what she did. Not for fame, not for TV, but to bring healing where it was needed most. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Mina. Hope your day is so well. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe the channel. However, it was a crisp autumn afternoon when Long Island medium Theresa Caputo arrived at a cozy suburban home. The air carried the scent of fallen leaves and fresh-baked cookies, but inside, the atmosphere was heavy with grief. Lisa, a woman in her mid-40s, greeted Theresa with a weak smile. Her eyes, though kind, were clouded with sorrow. "I lost my daughter, Emily, 2 years ago," she said, voice trembling. She was only 17. Theresa nodded, taking Lisa's hands in hers. "I feel a strong young energy around you. She wants you to know she's okay." Lisa gasped, tears welling in her eyes. "Is she really here?" Theresa closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "She's showing me a blue butterfly. Does that mean anything to you?" Lisa let out a soft sob. Yes, Emily loved blue butterflies. "After she passed, one landed on her picture frame in my room. I always wondered if it was a sign." Theresa smiled. "It was. She says she sends them to remind you she's still with you. She's also mentioning a song, something you used to sing together." Lisa covered her mouth, emotions overwhelming her. "You are my sunshine. I used to sing it to her every night when she was little, and at the hospital before her voice cracked. Theresa's expression softened. "She's singing it to you now. She wants you to stop feeling guilty. She knows you did everything you could." Lisa broke down, but this time, there was a sense of relief. "I miss her so much." Theresa reached out, giving Lisa a comforting hug. "She knows, but she also wants you to live. She's always by your side, and when you see a blue butterfly, know that's her saying, 'I love you, Mom.'" For the first time in 2 years, Lisa felt a warmth in her heart, a connection that time and loss could never break. However, Monty sat in the reading room, his hands trembling slightly as he waited for Theresa Caputo. The burden of guilt he carried had weighed him down for years. His mother had passed away unexpectedly, and he had never gotten the chance to say goodbye or apologize for the arguments they had before she died. He blamed himself, believing that his harsh words were the last thing she had heard from him. Theresa entered with her signature warm smile. "Monty, sweetheart, I can already feel a strong presence. A mother's love is never far." Monty swallowed hard, his eyes welling up. "I hope she's here. I need to know if she forgives me." Theresa closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "She's telling me she sees your pain. She wants you to stop punishing yourself." Monty's heart pounded. "But I hurt her. I was so selfish, and then she was gone." Theresa nodded, listening intently. "She's showing me a memory. Do you remember the time you spilled juice on the couch when you were a kid? And you were so scared she'd be mad?" Monty gasped. "Yes, I thought she'd punish me, but she just laughed and said, 'It's just a couch, Monty. You're what matters.'" Theresa smiled. "That's her message to you now. She says, 'Monty, it was just words. You are what mattered to me, and you still do.' On to those arguments, sweetheart. That was all you." Monty covered his face with his hands, sobbing. He had carried this pain for so long, believing he was unworthy of forgiveness. But now he realized his mother had never blamed him. She had loved him unconditionally, even beyond death. Theresa placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "She's telling me it's time for you to forgive yourself. She's at peace, Monty. She wants you to be too." For the first time in years, Monty felt a weight lift from his heart. His mother's love had found him, even from the other side, and now he could finally begin to heal.